Hey guys, my name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today on the Forgotten Races review, we're going to discuss a race that is far from forgotten, but nevertheless, I never see on games I'm watching on YouTube, at my own tables, at tables I'm a part of. That is, of course, the Gnoll. Now, in literary history, the first time we ever saw a Gnoll, spelled at the time G-N-O-L-E, was in 1912, in Lord Dunsany's story, How Knuth Would Have Practiced His Art Upon the Gnolls. We don't get a whole lot of physical description here. They were said to have lived on the edge of a sinister wood, watching intruders through holes in trees, and they were said to own very large emeralds. Fast forward to 1974, when Dungeons & Dragons puts out their white box set. Gnolls, now spelled as we spell it, G-N-O-L-L-S, were described as a cross between gnomes and trolls, with a +2 morale, otherwise similar to hobgoblins. Neither one of these descriptions fits the iconic monster race that we see in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, the anthropomorphic hyena monsters. Gnolls were first described in the way we picture them and see them in our Pathfinder products and Dungeons & Dragons products today in 1977 in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. And since then, Gnolls have been a mainstay across tabletop role-playing games. They make an appearance in 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, and of course, our beloved Pathfinder. Gnolls have several variants, from the Flind, first published in 1981 in the Fiend Folio, said to be a more intelligent but less physically powerful version of a Gnoll. This gets flip-flopped later in D&D, where the Flind becomes more physically powerful but less brainy, and in Pathfinder, a Flind is just altogether a superior Gnoll. The first creature catalog article in Dragon 89, September 1984, featured a creature called a Guna. Think like a sort of lycanthrope-type creature that could transform between a Gnoll and a Hyenodon, which is essentially a dire hyena. Outside of the tabletop world, they appear all over literature and video games in things such as the Discworld series, Heroes of Might and Magic, Warcraft, and Adventure Quest worlds. Like I said, these guys have been around pretty much since the beginning, and as far as monstrous races go, they're pretty much a mainstay in tabletop role-playing. Nevertheless, despite the fact that both Paizo and Wizards of the Coast released information making the Gnoll a playable race, I rarely see them, so we're going to dive in. The Gnolls of Pathfinder share an affinity for the hyena in more than just a physical way. They keep them as pets, and they mock their behaviors. They love hunting, they are capable hunters, but they're much happier scavenging or stealing kills than going out and hunting something for themselves. This laziness will often lead to Gnolls acquiring humanoid slaves who they will send to find food, find water, even go as far as to hunt for these guys. Even a dead friend is considered fresh meat for a Gnoll, and they are known to honor their dead with prayer just as much as they are by devouring them. Gnolls love to fight, but they only do it when they have the obvious advantage of numbers. If singled out, they prefer to avoid combat unless they're gonna steal a kill from a hunter, or if we're talking some kind of ambush. This race has no value in courage or honor, and instead prefers to flee once it becomes clear it can't win if they get overpowered in a fight. The aphorism amongst their people, of course, being, it is better to run with your tail tucked away than to lose your tail entirely. Gnolls are pack hunters, but if they feel like they're winning a combat, they'll attempt to take down a weaker being rather than help their friend. If the Gnolls are struggling in combat, though, they'll typically gang up on a powerful leader and try to take the leader of whatever they're fighting down in the hopes of forcing the leader's allies to flee. Gnolls in Pathfinder are sexually dimorphic, that is to say, the females are typically larger and more muscular than male Gnolls are. Most Gnoll tribal societies are matriarchal, with something along the lines of a Gnoll ranger or Gnoll cleric leading the tribe on whatever horrible business it might be doing, across whatever region they might live in, and though they are known to live in savannas, deserts, things like that, Gnolls are perfectly comfortable living pretty much anywhere. So let's get down to the meat and potatoes. A Gnoll gets a +2 strength and a +2 to its con with no negs to any stats. They are size category medium, humanoids with the Gnoll subtype, with a base speed of 30 feet. A Gnoll begins play knowing its racial language only. Gnolls get a +2 bonus to their natural armor and dark vision out to 60 feet, and that's it. That's all. This monster race that we're used to cutting down as we go, running all over the place, scaring them off, saving the princess that they've captured and enslaved, whatever it is these Gnolls might be doing, as far as the advanced race guide is concerned, A Gnoll is worth 6 RP. That's less than a human, that's less than, matter of fact, most races in Pathfinder. An Aasimar is 15 RP, even something like a Catfolk is 9 RP, Orcs are 8. These guys have almost nothing going for them considering they are considered a monster race. So if I were to play a Gnoll, I think the first thing I would do, and I probably will do to be honest with you, because I've been considering making a Gnoll character for an upcoming game. Don't know who that GM will be, but I am certain I will ask him if I can use the custom race building rules in the advanced race guide to make this guy a little more, monstrous. I don't even want to do anything that crazy to it. To me, it just feels like this race that's been around since the beginning of tabletop role-playing games should have a little more going on for it. Even something as simple as tacking on Scent for 4 RP and 3 ranks of Bite, meaning we've spent 13 RP on this race, which is totally reasonable considering a Drow is 14, Aasimars are 15, a Tengu is 13, a Tiefling is 13, androids are 16, etc, etc, etc. This at least makes the race feel more like it has hyena-type stuff, and less like it's just something to be kicked around by low-level adventurers. But assuming that our GM won't let us use the advanced race guide to deck this guy out a little bit, which is super ironic when you consider the advanced race guide is in fact where the Gnoll racial stuff comes from, there are other facets of playing a Gnoll that are worth mentioning. First and foremost, no negs to his stats and a +2 to that thing that gives you your fort save and your hit points is nothing to shake a stick at. A +2 to your natural armor bonus doesn't hurt either. You can pretty much make a Gnoll whatever it is you want to, and you're not doing anything wrong. From a role-playing standpoint, I see 2 options. First, and probably my favorite, if I were to play a Gnoll, I would go well out of my way to make him some kind of lawful good paladin of a god that hates and reviles monsters, because there's nothing I love more in a character than a little bit of contradiction. As much as I love hitting the nail on the head, making all the orcs evil, making all the elves chaotic good, etc, 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 shaking it up a little bit can make a character a lot more interesting. So something like, again, a lawful good paladin of, let's say, Serenre, running around killing monsters on a Gnoll makes the character more interesting, gives it more in-character dilemmas, and makes a character that is much more memorable than your average run-of-the-mill human paladin. Also, though, like I said, Gnolls can live anywhere they want to. They, like hyenas, are often found in deserts and savannas, and in Pathfinder, that means Osirion. Though, of course, they could live anywhere in Garund. I think I'd have a lot of fun playing a Gnoll who's from the nation of Osirion and worships a god from the ancient ancient Osirian pantheon. I'm talking like a war priest of Sekhmet, a paladin of Ra, a cleric of Horus. The list goes on and on. Pathfinder's got stats for him, and I love that. So if you guys ever played a Gnoll before in Pathfinder, or even as far back as the original Dungeons & Dragons, would you ever play a Gnoll? Or are you the kind of guy who just prefers to ride around through the desert, cutting the heads off these things as you go? Let me know all about it in the comments below, and we'll keep the conversation going. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next race video drops next Monday.